Welcome to another episode of Axe of the Blood God, an independent RPG podcast. I'm your host, Kat Bailey. I'm joined as always by my lovely co-host, Nadia Oxford.
Kat, have I ever told you what the definition of insanity is?
What's that, Nadia?
I don't know. That's as far as I got in Far Cry 3.
Also joining me is my equally lovely co-host, Eric Van Allen.
I spun a top on the table yesterday and it hasn't tipped over yet. Should I be worried? Is this something we're concerned about?
Nah.
We truly do live in interesting times, and I can understand if a lot of our listeners are feeling a little stressed right now. But so we're just going to chill out. We're going to hang out. We're going to talk about the RPGs that we play when we need to feel cozy, when we want to tuck in with a blanket and a cup of tea and maybe forget about what's been happening in the world and just try and enjoy ourselves. We also went to our dear listeners and we got some of their suggestions as well. And of course, we'll be talking about what we've been playing. We'll be talking about everything else that is happening in the world of RPGs. Sadly, we have not been playing Mario and Luigi Brothership, so we're not able to provide many thoughts on that right now. We've all been taken over by a different game. You'll find out what it is when we get to the tavern, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of venting about it, so please look forward to that. In the meantime, if you enjoy the show, please contribute to the show via Patreon at patreon.com/bloodgodpod, where your generous donations allow us to make this show and keep it going. We've been doing this for about 3.5 years now. We're going on 4 years. It's been an amazing ride and a real privilege. If you subscribe, you get access to our latest episode of Pantheon of the Blood Gods, Shadow Heart's Covenant, with Victor Hunter and our old pal Bob Mackey from Retronauts. Find out if we put Shadow Heart's Covenant in the Pantheon. And our next Pantheon is Drakengard? The perfect nihilistic RPG for our nihilistic times.
We're definitely in the Yoko Taro age. The age of man is over. Welcome the age of Yoko Taro.
Truly. So that game club is happening right now on the Axe of the Blood God Discord. And of course, if you want to buy merch, shop.bloodgodpod.com. If you want to download Pantheon Eps from 2021 or 2022, sign up for us over on our Patreon and you'll be able to access from our store right there. Okay, let's talk about the main topic. Cozy RPGs for turbulent times, I would describe it. And we're just going to sit in here. I got my cup of coffee, taking a deep breath. And y'all, Stardew Valley 1.6 is out.
So true.
I've been playing that game since 2017. Well, since it came out. I think it was like 2016, 2017. And it's still great, still amazing. Sadly, there are performance issues. I learned that I have to take my hat off of my cat.
Excuse me.
I know. Otherwise, it'll crash. I'm sorry to inject stress into what is ostensibly a discussion of cozy RPGs.
This is over.
This is like we're getting like a massage in the spa, and you're like, well, by the way, it's going really great. Music is playing. It smells wonderful. The sauna's on fire. Just keep going. It's all good.
It's fine. Is this on the Switch or is this just Steam Deck?
The 1.6 has been available on PC and therefore Steam Deck for maybe April or May. And it has just finally come out on console in various platforms. Mobile, Switch, PS5, etc. The mobile game apparently even added a secret test multiplayer mode that can be accessed via the Konami code, which is
of course
really quite remarkable. So
here's a little bit of trivia for you. Apparently programmers at one point, I don't know if they still do it, but they used to just kind of program the Konami code to do anything in any unrelated website, like the website for revealing the new Canadian $10 bill. You would enter the code and you would get like a little shower of $10 bill icons, and you get a little chip tune of "Oh Canada." I think I reported that at US Gamer, and it got a little traction because and someone revealed to me, yeah, if a lot of web developers, they just kind of put the Konami code in place just for the hell of it. So always try that out: up, up, down, down, left, whatever.
Is that
I'm
is that
40,
the most?
I don't remember anything.
Is that the most famous cheat code in our lives? Probably. I think
Absolutely,
so.
it's like pop culture now.
There's like that, the lesser known Looking Glass Deus Ex door code that gets put in everything. And then I
There's
would say
the invincibility code for Doom,
yes.
which
And
I can't
also
remember it, but it was big.
the God mode code for, I mean, so there is no cow level and then power overwhelming. Those are two that I also think of all the time. The Age of Empires ones were really good too, but I can never remember what they were. The ones that got you the cars that had machine guns in them, like those were really good codes.
Empire over, I win.
Yeah. Shoutouts to codes. Does Stardew Valley have cheat codes?
That's a good question.
Apparently it does.
That's amazing.
The concept of a cheat code is charmingly old-fashioned. Nowadays, people just download mods. But it's always a little fascinating to me, the cultural detritus that just sort of remains lodged in our collective memory. Am I wrong for feeling like pro tip is still around, or am I just using outdated slang?
I love
like saying
pro
like
tip.
pro tip. No, that's always
Pro
a thing.
tip.
That's indelible, and I love that because almost nobody remembers where it comes from now.
I like
But
saying
I
it
did- we
know.
ironically.
I worked there.
Yeah.
I worked there too. I'm very
But-
proud.
Well done. Have either of you played Stardew Valley relatively recently, out of curiosity?
I was looking at starting one like last night because I was sitting there and I was joking with some friends because we were not even talking about, all the things that are happening in the world and why that would make you want to return to a simpler time. But we were talking about how bad property prices are in different places because we're at that age, and
Yeah.
I was like, well, I don't want to go to the West Coast because everything over there costs too much. I don't want to go to the East Coast because everything over there costs too much. And even down here in Texas, property prices keep going up. So I'm like, what if we all just moved to the middle of nowhere and built a little, shack and we could keep it up all the time and hang out with the locals? And I just invented Stardew Valley. And
You have any building experience? Do any of you? That's what it
No,
usually comes down to.
crucially-
Everyone has ideas, but nobody wants to do the trade work,
no,
unfortunately.
see,
Or they
I
can't.
will do the trade work. The problem is I can't do the trade work.
Exactly. Like I would love to do that kind of stuff, but when I was young, we weren't even told it was an option. It was just like, all right, go to the wood shop and like bother the teacher for half an hour, and that was the greatest teacher I ever had in my life. But yeah, that was Eric, were you here when I told the story, the pit about the drill down the guy's pants?
I think so because that just got like the most like like reaction out of me, but
That was woodshop.
yeah.
So that's what we
yeah.
did instead of being told, hey, you know what? You could do this for a living. You could make stuff for a living. It was all, we gotta work on computers. We created this great digital world. Look at it. It's all burning around me. Fantastic. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Thanks for college.
Let me
didn't go to
pivot
college.
this real quick on the idea of being able to do something even though you have no knowledge of it. There's a TikTok trend that was going around a while back of girlfriends asking their boyfriends whether they thought they could land a Boeing 747. Do either of y'all think that you could land a Boeing 747 with somebody in your ear talking to you the whole way down?
Yes.
Yes, because my brother is like
I love this for
engineer,
y'all.
airplanes. Like my brother works with planes, so I know enough from osmosis, like how certain things work. And frankly, with the amount of video game knowledge we have, there is a little bit of crossover going on there with like
I've been playing
levers and buttons and stuff.
I've played a shocking amount of video games in which I've had to land planes over my lifetime, and I'm not saying it's the same, even remotely, but I'm saying that there is at least a 25% chance that I could safely land a Boeing 747 jet with somebody giving me guidance in my ear as I went.
You have an
I've done it in
above
Microsoft
average.
Flight Simulator.
Yeah, yeah.
If he
Okay.
can do it in flight sim, well, my brother, like as I said, he's been working with planes his whole life. He could get hours in flight sim or something like that. Like he could log hours. It was that realistic. It is that realistic.
It is, yeah.
I love this confidence we have. I also think that if I had somebody in my
Irrational
ear,
confidence.
yeah. Well,
It also depends where you're landing. Like, for a
Yes,
nice big
true.
runway versus an island airport, then
Yeah.
you can land in the water.
I mean, in fairness, it is a Boeing jet, so the door will probably blow off or something in the process of landing, or the wings will fall off. So there
the
is
intro of
that.
Lost, yeah.
Incorrectly.
Might be extraneous circumstances. When it comes time to flee the country, we can all get a Boeing 747 new Patreon tier.
We need a
You
plane.
could be on the Blood God jet when we
Blood
flee the
God
country.
We're just turning into a mega church now. We're going to be one of those
Oh,
mega
God, I
churches
love
that buys
megachurches.
planes. Yeah,
They're so
yeah.
full of Satan.
Anyway, Stardew Valley.
Canceled. That was my fault.
But Stardew Valley seems like it's in a really, really good place right now.
It's an amazing place. They add so much, and
Yeah.
Concerned Ape just keeps going, yeah, I thought I was done, but then I had a million more ideas, and I just wanted to keep making it.
I could see that being the case. The last time I really played it was with the last really big content update, so I would love to go back to it, but I know I'll die there and live there forever if I do. So I'm just kind of waiting maybe until the fixes come in if there are performance issues.
I've had a multiplayer game going on with Amy. We're in
Hi,
the middle
Amy.
of year 3, and yeah, we're in the middle of year 3, and we're still building up Ginger Island. We've got at least another couple years of game time to go in that one, and it still feels like we've barely scratched the surface on everything that there is to find. That's one thing about these updates. They add so many secrets to uncover. It's a really delightful game to play, and you can play with a lot of friends too. You can just add a lot of people in.
Is this a free update too?
It is, yes.
That's pretty incredible.
It's pretty remarkable. You could totally sell these updates and probably make
They'd be worth it. It's like the Shovel Knight updates. Like those were.
It has sold 30 million copies though, so I think he's doing all right.
Yeah.
He's definitely like. I feel like even if he's known for one game, it's what a hell of a game.
What a hell of a game. Nadia, shout out a cozy RPG for me.
For me, a big one is, let's see, I wrote down some, but then I came up with the one in my mind. Breath of Fire 3 is always going to be one I'm going to go back to. Even if I stop at a certain point, because I say, okay, this game's bullshit, I can't go any further. A very big chunk of that game is probably one of the coziest RPGs ever played, especially a cozy RPGs with Mafia connections. There is like a Mafia hit, so it's still a cozy game. I mean, it's a game where the protagonist, Ryu, he's a kid through a lot of it, and he starts off, like, being saved by Ray, the tiger dad, and Ray puts him to bed, and you wake up at the start of your journey, and you get out of bed, and you're wearing these enormous pajamas. That's obviously Ray's dress shirt or something like that. So you just kind of trundle along downstairs, through the house, through the town, looking for Ray in these big jammy jams, and I just think that's a really cute way to start an RPG.
Jammy Jams.
I laid out your jammy jams.
We did a Breath of Fire 3 Pantheon episode a few months
did?
back, if I remember correctly, so go check that out. Eric, how about you?
I'm going to throw a real curveball for my first one.
Okay.
So I was thinking about what is not just cozy for me, but what I want to play, what I can kind of like lose myself in a little bit. Disco Elysium is not immediately the most
Is that
cozy
cozy?
game. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's cozy, but it is comforting. And let me give you an explanation why. First of all, like the voice acting. That alone like
it
does
is
a lot for
really
me. I think the
soothing.
voice like hearing especially some of the voices like Volition in your mind are like so just they're so well done, they're so well recorded, they're so well acted, like well written. But you think about the stuff that you kind of like get lost in when you need that like comfort television or whatever, and you put on like a procedural, you put on like some sort of crime show. There's a long history of people, you know, like I'm just gonna put on SVU or whatever. And SVU is a very jarring show. It's a very like heavy show at times, but there is something about getting that like story and resolution in a single go. And Disco Elysium has a lot of these little mini arcs and little mini stories that you're doing as you're kind of dealing with the broader problems of the main character, who they are, what they're doing, why their life is so messed up, why they're acting the way they're acting, that sort of thing. And so I find it like a really interesting game because like as you go about all this, oh my god, the soundtrack. I can like hear the little trumpet ringing out as you like step outside into Martinez, and like the cool music as you're just walking down the street, that little bum 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 bum, and like ooh, it's perfect. And the relationship you build with Kim Kitsuragi over the game, you just kind of have this constant companion that you're like bouncing things off of. There's something about like it feels like you're sitting down for like a really good one-on-one role-playing session. Like you have like the world's best DM just sitting across from you being like, let's role-play a little bit. Like you're going to be a detective and I'm going to give you like a really good crime story to like work your way through. And that to me is like really, it's like I've got a whole season of True Detective to just like binge through in one sitting, right? It's like really comforting to me to have that. And I know that like the subject matter is not always the most comforting, but there is something about like the way it handles it, because you can go in and get like really down and get really like into the weeds on stuff, but at least the way I've played Disco Elysium, there's always like a lot of hope in it. There's a lot of like belief that personal action is very important, even in the face of insurmountable odds, even in the face of like doom and gloom. And so that sort of message always gives me a lot of hope, a lot of fire, and I love it for that. Like it gives me a lot of energy when I need that energy to keep going. So that's why I go back to that game, even though like it is a very dark and raw game at times. Is it's also like a very emotionally uplifting game at times, a really motivating game at times. So
something about the kind of the misty environment I can understand would be comforting in a way too.
Yeah.
I just, in Disco Elysium, I just don't want to disappoint Kim most of the time.
True.
If I make
He
him
doesn't-
sad, then I know I've failed.
He doesn't say it, but he's very disappointed. Well, he will say it, but he is very disappointed in you even when he's not disappointed in you.
Is Kim one of the best RPG characters of the past 15 years?
1000%. I think if we talked for a while about doing a new March Madness Thunderdome of like companions in RPGs, and I feel like Kim Kitsuragi would be like the far and away like number one seed. They're rolling in there to just like take down the whole bracket. Like I can't imagine Kim not getting deep into that run.
Your conscience as well. It's really fun to play as a total disaster. And I love how you have choices in that game, but the game is almost a Rorschach test, and it will take the reins from you and say, no, you've been role-playing in this direction, so you can't break character now. This is who you are. Sorry.
It's really funny the way it lets you lean into the best and worst of yourself, but also like how both of those things can be embodied by like a single idea, right? Like the idea that you are so in tune with your body that you're like incredibly athletic and fit, but you're also like craving that neural stimulation, right? Because you're so in tune with all like the little nerve endings on your fingertips and all that. And so you have like this real interesting dynamic of like, you get all the greatness of a thing and all the worst of a thing, and it lets you experience the wide swath of what human experience is. It's like it's a really like deep, thematically like narratively rich game that I love to just like pick apart and like always find new stuff in. It's such like a little amazing thing. And that studio, like, you know, the fallout of Zaum and that studio and the mini projects they're now spinning up in the wake of it, I think are both worrisome, because it's like, will we ever have like a new Disco Elysium? But it also speaks to how incredible it was that thing came together in the first place. Kind of like Vampire Bloodlines, another one of my favorite games. I don't know if I would call that a comfort game. I think that's just a game I like playing. But Disco is incredible.
We went to our audience and we asked, Well, we asked for suggestions for their favorite comfy RPGs, cozy RPGs, and the first one was from one of our mods, Teeps. Secret of Mana, because of how whimsical and bright the world is. I just like wandering around the different places, looking at everything.
Yeah,
This one is for Nadia.
for sure. Yeah, that was probably gonna be my pick, but I saw Teeps had picked it, and I said, oh well, there's a million other games I could pick. But Secret of Mana really I've played it over and over, and it really has the perfect starting for an RPG. Some dumbass kid is playing with his dumbass friends. He falls. He accidentally pulls out this sword that, you think, oh, he's going to start an epic quest like Link, but actually the sword is cursed. He's banished from his hometown. Some guy who looks like Ned Flanders stands permanently in front of the town and says, you cannot be here anymore. And it's like, God damn, they hire that guy or what? But anyway, you go off on this quest, and Secret of Mana's world has this really distinct shade of lush green to it that is kind of peppered with shades of purple and pink, and just going to the Pure Land, which is the land where the Mana Tree stands, is just one of my, still gives me chills. I love doing it. That's one of the reasons I actually liked Visions of Mana quite a bit this year, is because it's imperfect as it is. It really does capture that look of Secret of Mana and that vibe and that atmosphere. And too bad the studio is dead. Could have had something nice going there. Comfort games.
Why does this keep happening?
You'd think it was a terrible year or something.
I think it's easy to say, well, what's a comfort game? A comfort game would be bright colors, maybe smooth mechanics that are pretty accessible and really nice to have, things like that. I like Super Robot Tyson. I find that to be a comfort game because it's fairly repetitive, but it's very art forward. And the animations are really delightful. They're really exciting. All of the characters are really over the top. I mean, anytime you get Gurren Lagann in there or any of the other super robots doing their thing, you can't help but just sort of enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
It's a great way to sort of turn your brain off. You could argue that Muso games are a comfort genre.
Most of them. We picked the one that was not comforting, and look, that's on y'all once again. Look, I put it in there. Y'all picked it. So.
The least comforting game in existence. Anything by Yoko Taro. Back of the box quote.
Why do Muso games exist? Because in Japan, there's an entire class of salaryman that just wants to beat people up after finishing work. And they're just it's midnight. I've been out drinking. I hate my job. And I'm going to beat lines and lines and lines of soldiers in the Romance of the Three Kingdoms or whatever.
I was going to say the Three Kingdoms part of Dynasty Warriors specifically is so crucial to that too, because you have these larger than life mythical personas of Lu Bu and Liu Bei and Zhuge Liang and stuff like that. It's you have these characters that are so massive and just destroying swaths of armies and big dramatic moments of the Battle of Chibi and stuff like that, where it's it is the perfect it's not MCU, but it's can you imagine MCU Muso? That would actually be kind of tight. But
I'd play that actually.
Yeah, but it is this idea of you're playing these super heroic characters just fighting it out in big dramatic fights on the battlefield, and you have those I think it was 4 that did the duels. Easily the best mechanic in the series, where you had the big dramatic duels between people, where you could stand off and be you killed my brother in the last fight. You will face the wrath of Wu. And it's oh, I love this stuff. It's so good. Yeah, Muso games are definitely, they were a comfort for me when I was way younger and I was playing 4 and 5 on the PS2.
Nadia shouted out Visions of Mana, but are there other examples of cozy RPGs that were kind of released this year?
This year?
2024. Dragon Quest 3 HD.
Yeah,
2D, I can easily say is
yeah.
I can't say too much. Well, the preview embargo is up. I talked about it a little bit last week, but we will be talking more about it.
People will be shocked to know that Dragon Quest 3 has been around since, 1990? The late 80s?
Its foundation is perfectly solid. There's very little they had to change technically, on a basic level for this game.
I think that it's not just everybody being nice, but strong heroes, strong villains. You know who the good guys are. You know who the baddies are, and Dragon Quest will always hit at your feels and often has morally complex stories. But at the end of the day, it's about big heroes, right? And there is something comforting in
basically,
that.
especially Dragon Quest 3.
I would say in a
Very
similar
much so.
vein, Infinite Wealth, like a dragon. So like those games have like somewhat serious plot lines, but I think Infinite Wealth really did a lot to add just additional wackiness on all the fringes and a lot of side game stuff like Dondoko Island, and it was just like this big a Yakuza game always has like really fun, interesting side stories where you get to see these characters do wacky things and then engage with all the different like running gags of the universe. And like, if you've never, seriously, if you're listening to this, if you've never played a Like a Dragon / Yakuza game, please get on that. At this point, like you are rapidly becoming a party of people that have not played it because so many people are getting into this franchise, and I'm so happy. I'm so glad it's so big now. But like they really are really good comfort food games because they ask enough of you to be engaging without asking too much of you. I've never found any of those games to be too difficult or too challenging. Maybe you have to grind in some of the RPG ones, but like a Yakuza game is just sitting down with a nice coffee. You're gonna hang out with your pal Kazuma Kiryu or Ichiban Kasuga, and you're gonna go do some side stories and laugh. You're gonna get a little emotional. You're gonna be like, "Oh man, that really hit." It is that TV episode thing of like you get little shots of TV episodes throughout the run. It's so good. I love the Yakuza series. It's absolutely a comfort series for me.
One day I will finish one. I always get halfway through them and go and end up bouncing for some reason. It's happening again with Infinite Wealth. I don't know why. Maybe it's because at a certain point, I mean, with Infinite Wealth, it was because of the Animal Crossing Island thing.
Yeah, leave. If you don't want to do that right away, just leave. Just get out of there.
It really derailed the story for me. And then for the original Like a Dragon, and by original I mean Like a Dragon 7, I bounced because I kept losing to that stupid building wrecker. The wrecking ball?
Yeah.
The freaking wrecking ball was so boring. It was such a boring fight.
Of all the bosses, like I fought a dragon, I fought like a manticore, I fought a bulldozer.
Yeah, I was having a good time with it, but I hit a point where I was like, I can't keep going. I'm gonna play Yakuza 0 at some point, and maybe that's a great entry point for the series. But it's annoying that I keep running into barriers that keep me from finishing this series. But Chicken Parmigiana, sorry. And this is a couple of people throw this one out. Lunar 1 and 2.
I'm still laughing at Chicken Parmigiana. I'm sorry.
That's good. It's good. Welcome to the pod, by the way. I
chicken,
haven't seen your name around, Chicken Parmigiana.
Chicken parm that harms you.
E. coli.
They throw out Lunar 1 and 2.
That's
the
a
music,
good one.
the cute sprites, the humor, and the dialogue. Each town you go to has a personality and feels like a cozy place to visit.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you gonna say? Yeah.
I haven't played a whole lot of Lunar beyond like what we did for the Pantheon that time, but I'm looking forward to the remakes, which as long as they have those quality of life improvements, I'll be on board. It's a very quintessential RPG of its age. It probably would have benefited if it got spread around more, but I don't think Vic What's-His-Face wanted to work on cartridges. And that would have like had that would have made a lot of problems with the text.
Yeah, I think Lunar is definitely one of those like Saturday morning RPGs, maybe the quintessential Saturday morning RPG of like, we're going on an adventure, things are great, everything's looking up, we're gonna have wacky tales and silly characters and fun like kind of, you know, problem of the week stuff to solve, and then eventually the narrative arc takes over and it becomes a big thing. It's got almost like a perfect Yeah, it's almost got like a perfect layout for like a Saturday morning cartoon, like the kind you would watch, like Cardcaptor Sakura or Yu Yu Hakusho, like stuff that has like good kind of beat by beat stuff where you can hop in anytime, but there's a big overarching narrative, and I think it works really well in that way.
Put it this way, like I know the second game at least starts with that very kind of goofy ass protagonist being woken up by their childhood friend, quote unquote, and you know she likes him, but he's too stupid to realize it, and then like he's like, I'm going on an adventure to be a dragon master. So yeah, it's very very Saturday morning anime, as you say.
Sometimes to its detriment, I would say leans heavily into like 90s to early 2000s era like anime tropes of
I'm a perverted old man.
Yeah,
That kind of thing.
But I do think
don't know if Lunar has one.
It probably does. I'm trying to think because it does have like the bromides and stuff like that in there, and so it probably has some other stuff like that somewhere hidden away. But like, it is just very fun. It's very enjoyable. I don't know. The combat never really like hooked me. That's always been my hang up with Lunar, is that I love the vibes of Lunar. I love the world of Lunar. I think the combat has always been pretty uninteresting to me. It's never really like hooked me in the way that like say an Octopath 2 did. Ooh, Octopath. That might be a cozy comfort game.
That's a good one.
But yeah, I do still love the world of Lunar so much that I do think that's something to go back to if you need like a little comfort game.
Out of curiosity, if you're going through it and it's a really tough time, do you find yourself wanting to play video games or to take your mind off things, or do you find yourself going, video games they just don't do it for me at the moment, I need to go do something else?
Half and half.
Yeah. I was literally doing that like 3 nights ago actually, where I was like, I'm done with all like the work stuff I need to play. What am I going to play now? And even just the thought, and granted, I'm coming off of like months of burnout and also like a year where I've been reviewing RPGs, so I'm very burned out on a lot of stuff, and also just burned out from work in general. So like, I was sitting there and I was like, do I have to play something? Do I have to like play a video game? And even just the thought of like starting an RPG or something was very intimidating to me, because there's so many hours, right? So we'll talk about it in the tavern, but like I messed around with the Romancing Saga 2 demo. I actually, the thing I've learned is I need to find something that's going to hook me and just kind of keep bouncing around until I find it. So I finally opened up 1,000 Times Resist, which I will not say is a comforting or cozy game. Yeah. It's a very emotionally raw game. It is a wonderful game. It is on my Game of the Year list for sure, with a bullet, no question. Absolutely wonderful. But I need to find something to like really hook me and engage me, and I think that's why I end up liking games that aren't exactly like, when I want that comfort food, that cozy food, it's not for me like, oh, I'm gonna go start a farm or whatever. I want like a narrative that I'm gonna just get lost in, that I'm gonna just like, it's going to take over all my brain cycles, and I'm just going to be thinking about it all the time, the way I've been thinking about 1,000 Times Resist over and over and over again since I roll credits. Like, I think having a story that I can get lost in is what works, and then RPGs just end up being very conducive to that. So yeah, I do think there are times when I need to step away from games completely. I need to find something else to do, go watch anime or just junk food TV or sports or something. But I do keep coming back to games, I think, and I keep like finding something that like reignites my interest in them. So yeah,
I'll go for a walk. On election night, I couldn't really focus on anything. My heart rate was super elevated. I was trying not to look at my phone or doom scroll. I did have headlines coming across my phone, and I just sat and played Dragon Age the entire time for the most part, and that was fine. It's an action RPG, so I could kind of mindlessly beat up enemies and take on various quests and run around, and there's a cute griffin for me to pet. But in such circumstances, I think can be really hard to focus on a particularly complex game. That said, a game like Vampire Survivors, where
Oh, yeah.
you're just letting time go away for 45 minutes at a stretch, not a bad way to just kind of turn your brain off and get away from it all. But
Yeah, it really does kind of kill your brain for a bit. It's like when you go to the dentist and they freeze you. It's like it freezes your brain for a bit.
I do.
I'll be honest. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna say I do think roguelike games are weirdly conducive to relaxation because it's like you can get involved, you can get really invested in like a single run, but then you either win or you lose, and then you're just done with it. Like you just drop it and move on with your life. So like Binding of Isaac, Slay the Spire, FTL, Into the Breach, like you can just kind of boot those up and do a run and then be done with it and move on. And that's like such a freeing thing, I think, that you don't have to sit down and be like, okay, well, I've got to remember what I was doing and then go do these quests and then make sure like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta be somewhere, where's the save point, that sort of thing. So I do think that roguelikes are very, very conducive to just relaxation, even though they tend to be very, like, on paper, stressful games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Billa, on that vein, Billa suggests Slay the Spire. For me, for me, I enjoy games that can be played with only a mouse. It allows me to sit back and slouch in my chair for maximum coziness.
I have done that.
Coziness.
Maximum coziness.
I've cozy maxed with just a mouse playing Slay the Spire, usually with something on my second screen, like a good old anime or something like that. And that's living the life right there. Yeah, and like the nice thing about that is like I feel like some people, again, Lance Hard in the chat is saying that Slay the Spire stresses them out. I think like when you first start playing roguelikes, the idea that you have permadeath is like very intimidating. So like you feel like all your mistakes are like, oh no, I just ruined this run or whatever. But I think you eventually get over that hill and then see the valley out in front of you, and you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to like win every run. You're not. Like Balatro is the same way. Like you're not supposed to win every run of Balatro. You're supposed to just have an interesting experience playing that run. And in fact, the fact that you are intended to lose more often than you win makes it, I think, sometimes a more interesting game than like an RPG where or Veilguard is a really good example of like you're supposed to beat that game, like or even like Phoenix Wright, you're supposed to solve those cases. Like that's the intended way to like move the game forward. But Hades, Balatro, Slay the Spire, like you're supposed to just try. The game wants you to try more than it wants you to win. And I think that can be like a really freeing thing in a lot of ways, where like all of a sudden this thing that looms over you is like, you have failed, game over, you lose. Like all of that goes out the window. You're just like, cool. I like the thing happened. My run ended, but I can do another run. Like that's what's supposed to happen. Rogue Legacy does a great job of being like, hey, you lost the run. That's cool. Go spend that gold that you got. Go use this stuff. Vampire Survivors, like go buy some upgrades, some permanent upgrades. You unlocked a new character. Go try it.
Yeah, like good. I like roguelikes that have like really good, a play cycle that, even if you lose, you get something for it. It's in terms of like roguelikes, I'm obsessed with. Peglin is a big one.
I've heard it's very good.
Oh, it's nuts. But that's a game where, a lot of it is up to chance. What you draw is what you are stuck with. So yes, you are expected to lose sometimes because sometimes you just get a crap deck.
I've been spending more time on my analog pocket, and through the miracle of FPGA, I have a lot of Neo Geo games on it.
Nice.
And I have been playing puzzle games like Puzzle Bobble, Magical Drop. I've been playing Puyo Puyo.
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of games, Pokemon Puzzle League. And those are the kinds of games that can really kind of take your mind off things because they're very colorful, they're fun, they have nice music, great art, and you don't have to think too hard about them, and you're just going through a run. And the main thing is, first of all, there's that injection of nostalgia that is very comforting because I'm playing old games. But more importantly, just literally anything that keeps me off Reddit or Blue Sky or TikTok or whatever, I think is a huge plus in this environment.
Honestly recommend deleting those apps off your phone and access them only on desktop if you really want to. I've deleted so much stuff off my phone and I feel so much better for it. Twitter, I'll go on there to maybe retweet something from a friend, but I'm done with it. I just don't talk. There's my last tweet. It says where I went. You can come too.
I've definitely been shifting my phone usage. I don't delete any of that stuff. I more just kind of rethink how I want to approach and use them. I think the mass migration of people from Twitter to Blue Sky has helped with that, because it means Twitter was that place where I had to go because I had to go there, right? It's
exactly.
where
it was work too.
Important things happen there. I mean, it's where I got a lot of my first jobs in this industry, was DMing people on Twitter. But I think the migration to Blue Sky creates a lot of problems in our industry, but it also solves a lot of the problems. It has a lot more. I mean, it has the nuclear block, which I love.
I love the nuclear block.
It's the best. But also it's kind of a fresh start for a lot of things.
It really is.
Discourses, a lot of talking, and I feel like people on there have been generally engaging in more good faith discussion, because it's easier to box out the bad faith people. That could change, things always change, but I still keep stuff on my phone, obviously Discord to hang out with the Blood God community, always refreshing, always wonderful, because and this is, I'd love to pat ourselves on the shoulder for this, but it is the mods, it is the community themselves that has made the Discord so good over the years. So shout outs to y'all. Thank you.
Our mods are incredible, by the way.
Yes, mods are the best.
Best mods.
Yeah. I was going to say, actually, I skeeted about the thing I like about Blue Sky is that the nuclear block option, as you call it, Eric, it's so good at stopping bad discourse right in its tracks. If you see someone beefing, you're like, oh, I want to see what this is all about, and you go there, but you can't follow the thread because everything's blocked. So it's you get a little pissed off. It's I wanted to know what that was about, but at the same time, it's you know what? I can do something so much better with my time.
It made me realize I had a bad habit of wanting to engage with things that I knew would make me angry or make me upset or make me sad. I called it the touching the stove drive, where all of a sudden I wanted to touch the stove even though I knew it was hot. I just wanted to feel the burn. And
feel the burn.
Exactly. I didn't realize I had that piece of
I think we
in
all
me.
had it.
Yeah. It's a very self-destructive tendency to want to do it, but that was the
call of the
tool.
void, but in social media terms.
Exactly. I do keep TikTok though. I have to keep TikTok. As long as the good brain rot is still on there, it is permanently
some funny stuff on TikTok.
It has permanently damaged my brain in ways I will never be able to reconcile, but it makes me laugh sometimes. And also, we'll talk about this in the tavern, but a lot of people just talking about the Pokemon TCG Pocket meta and stuff like that, which has been very funny to engage with. So that's been a good time. But
hates it. Indeed.
We hate
it, Precious.
They're playing in Articuno, Precious.
So some things that we've learned today. Cozy are RPGs that can get you through things. Very simple RPGs, roguelites, colorful, bright, but also sometimes they don't always have to be super wholesome. Sometimes they can just maybe engage different parts of your brain and remind you that there's a better world there. So, but do you have a favorite RPG that you go to for comfort in times of trouble? Share them. We want to hear from you. Hit us up on social media, or delete your social media apps. Whatever, I don't care. Leave a comment leave a comment on our Patreon or send me an email at cat@bloodgotpod.com. Okay, that's it for our discussion about cozy RPGs. It's time now for a series of random encounters. The PS5 Pro is officially out, and several RPGs have released patches to support it, including Baldur's Gate 3 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I do not personally plan to get a PS5 Pro. However, I am feeling a little bit of FOMO because while I do plan to play Monster Hunter Wilds on my PC, and I'm sure it'll be fine, I really think that that's the kind of game that you want to play on your PS5 Pro, just for the sake of having better frame rates. Because Monster Hunter, you want 60 FPS on that game, just full stop.
I heard the specs are a little demanding this time around for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a gorgeous game. It's really cool. So you really want to get it to the best of its ability. By the way, it's only been 4 years. You remember all the promise of the PS5 and how it was just going to be the most amazing thing, and you're going to be playing games at 4K 60 all the time.
Yeah, cool.
I have to say, like, in terms of pure graphical performance, this generation's been a little mixed.
It has, hasn't it?
It's had some standouts. I think Final Fantasy 16 was a very beautiful visual powerhouse for the PS5, and
what would be the game that you would raise up and tout as the best looking showcase of this generation?
Oh, 16. I think it's FF16, hands down.
FF16?
It's gorgeous. It looks so good. Those models are incredible. The icons are just massive and so many amazing effects and stuff like that. Like, they really went all out on that game, and it really does feel like a game made to show off, even more so than Rebirth, which is the other game I would have put forward. I think 16 is just a visual showcase in a lot of ways.
It depends what you're looking for as well. Rebirth did have a lot of controversy with its backgrounds and all of that, but the slight expressions and whatnot, facial expressions in Cloud and everyone are pretty perfect. They don't give me any sort of uncanny valley feeling, even though I'm talking to a dude with spiky hair that's bright yellow and his eyes are the color of cobalt.
I think Cyberpunk is a good example too. Cyberpunk's a really great showcase game.
A lot of my favorite graphical games of this generation are also available on the PS4. Like Elden Ring, for example. I think that game looks absolutely fantastic. I think of Cyberpunk 2077 as more of a PS5 game than a PS4 game, but it's technically available on the PS4.
Functions on the PS4.
It functions.
The executable runs, but
I think there's a lot to criticize about Black Myth Wukong's kind of sameness of some of its environments and such, but I don't think there's any denying that from a pure graphical perspective, that game looks absolutely incredible on a moment-to-moment basis. So
definitely.
But hey, PS5 Pro, it's out now. It's an improvement on the PS5. There are reviews. Go read them. Mario and Luigi Brothership, meanwhile, I mentioned that none of us are playing it at the moment, and honestly, it's getting okay scores. It received a 79 on Metacritic. IGN, my day job, was particularly harsh on it, saying that Luigi, it fundamentally misunderstands what makes the series great. They don't like how Luigi is handled. They don't like the puzzles. So they were very down on it, unfortunately. But there are other people who are more up on it. I think, generally speaking, the Origami King was pretty well received. People enjoyed that one. But otherwise, I think the track record of the various Paper Marios and Mario Luigi games has been a little mixed in the modern era. Would you say that, Nadia?
The remakes have all been received quite well. But Origami, it's hard to say because really, Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi are two different series. And they did cross over that one time, but they both offer very different kinds of gameplay. And this is the first real, Mario and Luigi, more RPG-focused game that we've had in a long time. I've heard a lot of problems with the performance, which is really disappointing. So I'm gonna wait on it. I'm kind of done with the way Switch performance has been lately, especially with games from Nintendo.
Which has
just
been
get the
weird.
Switch 2 out there already. I adored Echoes of Wisdom, but damn, that game runs like chugga chugga chug.
Yeah, I was
I love
gonna say
that
the
game
same.
too. Can't wait for Switch 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a weird situation when like even the Nintendo games, which you expect to be the ones that run the best on a Switch, are now kind of hitting walls. Like Echoes of Wisdom and Brothership
Yeah.
both had performance. Mario Party has been good. I've been playing a lot of Mario Party recently. It's been a good like blow off steam
And
game
ending
with friends.
friendships at 60 FPS, steady.
Oh no, see. We now have a rivalry with impossible or like hard CBU Toad, who is just like playing 4D chess with Mario Party. They're crazy with it, but like
I want to play a game, Mario.
that game runs pretty well, very well. I won't say there's like no performance drops anywhere, but like I barely notice them if there are. But like Echoes of Wisdom was a game I had to put down because I just wasn't like loving the way it ran on the Switch, and it sounds like Brothership is having some of the same issues, and it's kind of a bummer because like yeah, the Switch is like very ancient at this point, and everybody's just kind of sitting there like, well, Switch 2, at least it's backwards compatible. That's great.
It's great on Switch too. Can't wait to play Pokemon
Yeah.
Scarlet and Violet finally.
Yay! We were talking about this a bit on the Shadow Hearts Covenant thing where we were. Actually, I don't remember what we were talking about. Just completely scratched that. My brain
Must
has
be a
gone.
Saturday.
Must be a Saturday. But on that note, the Switch backward compatibility confirmed.
I love
Even-
when they release that message. I adore Nintendo's trolling through this whole thing. Just, we're announcing a new thing. It's an alarm clock. They've been doing this, and they keep doing this. Just
it's
to
Play
frustrate
Doom on
the
the
everyone.
middle-
Alarmo now.
It's the middle of election night, and they're like, by the way, the Switch is backward compatible. And we're like, we're busy over here, Nintendo. That's great,
You know
but
that
still.
big thing you wanted to know about, like the most important thing about the system? Guess what? We're busy over here, Nintendo. We're
Something
kind of witnessing the
happening?
apocalypse.
Nintendo's, is something happening? I mean, their earnings happened to fall this week, so that's kind of how it was. So they're going to make some public-facing statements, but
That's a good one to make.
I feel great about Switch 2 backwards compatibility. I hope that there have been rumors that the slot on the Switch 2 will not accommodate Switch cartridges, so I am a little worried about that because I have a bunch of physical Switch games that I don't want to not be able to play
same.
Yeah.
anymore. But barring that, being able to play Echoes of Wisdom and Scarlet and Violet in 60 FPS is really positive. So yay, backwards compatibility. We already mentioned this. Stardew Valley 1.6 is officially out on consoles, but it's had some glitches that the creator has blamed on, among other things, a secret coyote. If your chickens, you have to basically keep your chicken coop door closed on the Meadowlands farm, otherwise they will disappear.
You know what the
So-
funniest thing about that is? That was a mechanic in the very first Harvest Moon that you had to fence in your chickens, because if you didn't, once in a while you'd hear like, at nighttime you'd hear like kind of a strangling barking sound, and you'd wake up and there'd just be like a feather where your chicken once was.
Haunting.
So I'm surprised it took this long to get chicken killers in there.
That's not particularly cozy.
No, that's not very cozy. Sorry, guys.
Somebody was joking that Stardew Valley in real life would be like pretty hard because you would move into a town where you have to just do backbreaking labor day in and day out, fixing up your farm, removing stumps, and then meanwhile you got an entire town that's trauma dumping on you.
I don't think my daughter is mine.
You're like at the
Who's my
bar.
daughter? I think she's related to that weird wizard that lives up on the hill and is cursing everybody.
She eats rocks.
You're like, I'm just trying
Meanwhile,
to drink
there's
my
a witch that
sarsaparilla.
turns your kids into doves. Ugh.
I'm just trying to start a farm. Grandpa gave me this.
Some tomatoes. For
The
Christ's
ghost of
sake.
my grandfather is haunting me.
I left Amazon for this.
I want to romance the Jojo Mart guy and like Jojo, that'd be great. Romance the Jojo Mart guy and like put arsenic in his coffee. Can I do that? Is that coming the next update, Eric?
Why would I know this?
Not you. Concerned ape. I almost called him Grape Ape. Yeah. Can we have poisoning the Jojo Mart guy?
I'm not Eric Barone. Crucially, please read the name tag underneath on the stream. I'm not Eric Barone.
Is his last name Barone?
I think so.
It
Yeah.
is Barone.
Oh, Mr. Barone, I'm going to poison you.
No, say the thing
Oh.
in Minecraft. God, can we move to a new topic?
Yeah, okay.
Sure. This one's for you, Eric. Mass Effect is the latest game to get a TV adaptation at Amazon. You excited?
Okay.
Might
Oh,
be
boy.
good.
Big pause. That means
Oh
yes.
boy. So like live action already a little concerning
Oh, yeah.
because I feel like live action these days means we didn't want to pay all the VFX artists a bunch of money to make it animated, so we're going to do a bunch of it live action on the world's shittiest soundstage and then like CGI in a bunch of stuff really cheaply, and it's going to look terrible. So there's that. I also think the idea like Mass Effect 1 could be a TV show. Like it absolutely is set up to be like the perfect 10 episode like limited run series, right? And even Mass Effect 2, I think you're gonna like be able to easily like translate that into a season or two of television and have a great time with it. I think about what those games are, and I think that if you turn them into a television show, you are ultimately making what is going to be a very middling sci-fi series, because a lot of the appeal of Mass Effect is not just like the world's great. I'm not saying like any of the source material they're working with is bad, but like you're just going to be watching Space Cop do Space Cop things. Like the appeal of a BioWare game is that like you are taking part in this. There is like player agency in what you do, in who you romance and who you talk to. Like if they take out the romance, which I think they would have to, if they take out like the entire situation on Vermeer, both of the big choices that happen on Vermeer are like really interesting because the player is the one that has to choose what happens, and like you're not going to see a thing pop up on your Amazon Fire Stick that's like, who lives? Choose now on your remote at home. That would be amazing if they did, but like
No.
I think when you take a lot of that away, you're just going to end up with like a sci-fi series that's going to be okay and decent, and maybe you end up with something as good as The Expanse, and that would be wonderful. And that's kind of like what I envision when I think of like they're making a Mass Effect show at Amazon, is like you're probably looking at something that looks a lot like The Expanse, in terms of budget, in terms of scope, in terms of how they film it, all of that. It's very similar. And if you like Mass Effect and have not seen The Expanse yet, please go watch The Expanse. It's a great series.
It's an incredible show. It's the best show.
It's really wonderful, and I really wish they could make an RPG out of it. You know, if only a massive
Wholesome
RPG
poly
studio.
relationships in in The Expanse. You gotta love it.
But I almost want them to just say, we're going to go a different route, and we're going to make a different story. Shepard's not in this. Like, we're doing a Citadel crime procedural. Like, we're following some CSEC officers or something like that. Like, do something different. But I know in my heart of hearts that's probably going to be some, like, fictionalized version. It's going to be similar to the Halo show, right? Like, you're going to take kind of the, like, broad pastiches of what this thing is, and then, like,
You're gonna have sex in
paint
front of
with that.
Cortana.
Look, if they want to make a
in front of
show
Edie.
about they want to make they want to make a show about an alien United Nations and the return of a terrifying ancient alien species while humanity tries to find its footing on the galactic stage, they should just remake Babylon 5, is all I'm saying.
Oh, they
Is
should
that
just make
what
Star
Babylon
Control
5
too.
is about?
More or less.
Is that the one that's about the Cylons? Everybody's a Cylon or whatever?
No, that's Battlestar Galactica. In
Okay.
Babylon 5, the basic premise is that humans are relatively new to the galactic stage. They're coming off an absolutely devastating, destructive war with a much older species that really kicked their butts, but then mysteriously quit before finishing the job. And in order to make sure that never happens again, they build a space station called Babylon 5. Babylon 1 through 4 had terrible things befall them. And they're on a budget, and everybody's trying to work out their differences in Space United Nations. But then things are happening. Mysterious ancient aliens are around. Humans are now telepathic. what's going on with that.
Wait,
And,
that is you are like also describing Mass Effect. What the hell? That is
And also describing
like
Star
beat for
Control
beat.
2.
Mass Effect is Babylon 5, but worse. Is what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. I think I have to go
So you
watch
can
Babylon 5
play Babylon 5. At least you're not a space cop in Babylon 5, is what I'm saying. But anyway, please subscribe to my TED Talk. I can tell you all about why Babylon 5. I could do a whole podcast about it. Maybe I will. But wow, we're still going through the random encounters. Here are a few more for you. The Fallout TV series, second season, just landed Macaulay Culkin as apparently
Hell yeah.
a crazy genius character. I'm looking forward to that.
I just gotta ask, Eric, what is Macaulay Culkin's significance to you as far as your childhood goes? So you did enjoy like Home Alone, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody's talking about DS9 and the Stars of Destiny live chat. Screw DS9. That's all I have to say about that. More
gosh.
Pokemon Company lawsuit details seeking an injunction, fine, and damages from the Pal World devs. Patents cover gameplay mechanics like the capture of digital creatures and the ability to ride them. The long and the short of it is the damages are not that huge, though they run into the millions of dollars. What the Pokemon Company is really trying to do, and Nintendo, is get an injunction to stop them from making this game because they see it as a threat, I suppose. So we'll see how this ends up going. And finally, rest in peace to Tony Todd. The great horror actor appeared in many roles, including numerous video games. And he was the cutscene narrator. And get this, Legend of Dragoon.
That game
Rest
keeps
in
haunting
peace.
us.
All right. We're rolling now into the tavern. We're settling in next to the fire, getting cozy. And we've been kind of hinting at this. That we've all been playing Pokemon TCG Pocket. And let's just rip the Band-Aid off and say, if I could change one thing about this game, I've been playing a bunch of verses. I've had some good polls. I've built some okay decks. I got a bronze emblem in the current event. That's how much I've been playing the various verses. I wish the battles weren't a literal coin flip. And I wish that I could remove the EX cards. And I know they won't do it because EX cards are something to shoot for and a reason to rip packs, and it's going to make them money, and they feel prestigious and cool, but they overly centralize the meta. They make it not particularly fun. If they removed them, the game would instantly become a lot more fun. The deck diversity would become more interesting. You would have a wider diversity of cards, and you wouldn't be in a situation where you go, well, yeah, they got the coin flip that they needed to instantly power up Articuno and Starmie EX, so I guess I lost.
I would also change two things about this game, but I would change two completely different things. I would make it so that you can place energy on a Pokemon when you go first, because I think I think it makes going first just terrible. Yeah, I never want to go first. I always want to go second. And this is a little known game mechanic, but it is getting like more known now, especially because of Articuno decks. Pokemon TCG Pocket has an internal balancing thing that ensures that you always draw a basic Pokemon that you can play at the start in your starting hand, to basically like cut out the mulligan. What that means is if your deck only has 2 Articuno EXs in it, you are guaranteed to draw your Articuno EX, and you can just fill the rest of your deck with supporter cards, draw cards, just to like get the things you need to gas up the 2 birds that you have, and you can just win the game off that. And that's kind of been what's been driving the meta, is a lot of like very slim decks of Pokemon that are all about just juicing up the right Pokemon. So Mewtwo, Gardevoir, Raichu, Magnezone, stuff like that. And I think that has really narrowed. I definitely agree that like the play space is very narrow right now, because you kind of have a few archetypes that work really, really well, and then a bunch of them that just don't. that just can't. They work, they function, they operate as a deck, but they can't like beat what is like the most well-oiled machine in this game. Like an Articuno deck or a Mewtwo deck is going to just function better than most others. So that is, I'm hitting a lot of the same walls with it, where I'm like, I love this game. I love cracking packs. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
I love that there is now a fiscally sound way for me to crack packs on a regular basis. But I absolutely think there are some like balancing issues when it comes to the game itself, the card game that is included with this cracking packs game.
That they it's so secondary that you only learn how to play it like in a few levels in.
Mm-hmm.
First, you gotta learn how to crack the packs.
Yeah, you have to hit.
More packs.
You have to level 4 to play other people in this, to like actually play the card game, which is so funny. It's so like, we want you to be opening packs. That's number 1 in this game.
Yeah.
They don't even give you that many rewards for beating people in it. It's just kind of like,
No, they don't.
anyway, you can learn the rules of this card game and then go play the real TCG card game if you want. But otherwise, this is just about collecting cards and looking at the pretty art, which I'm totally fine with. As long as I don't spend money on it. If I spend money on this game, I'm lost. But I do love the art on it. It's really gorgeous. Yeah.
I spent money.
I spent money. It's over.
I wish there was like one extra thing, like you were just saying, like the opening packs is perfect. I think it's like really solid. I also think the like cards that they chose and like the set that they created for this like launch set is very good. Some incredible full arts, really good spread of Pokemon, like great art all across the board.
Not just the 150, there are a bunch of others too.
Yeah.
Like Greninja and whatnot. Yeah.
Great selection, but like I feel like it needs the way that Pokemon Go had not just catching Pokemon by walking around outside, but you had gym battles, like that one extra thing that encourages you to like socialize, to meet other players, to really engage with it. I feel like there is a reason to play the competitive CCG, but not like a reason to like really engage with it and care about it. So like I feel like it needs just, what if there was a Pokemon Go like aspect where you could lock down gyms in real life by playing the card game and stuff like that, or if there was some sort of like thing that you could do to like engage with other players more often and create that kind of social situation that Pokemon Go did. I think it would really benefit from that.
I really enjoy Pokemon TCG Pocket. It does feel like it's wasting my time a little bit now. I'll keep cracking packs, but I was having a lengthy discussion last night about card games, and I think I've always been sort of given to liking them, going back to, interestingly, competitive Pokemon, which to me is basically a deck building game where you're putting together a team and you have certain archetypes that you're playing around, like stall or hyper offense or balanced, and you have defensive cores and all of that. And I've played Hearthstone a lot. I played Marvel Snap a lot. Listeners of this podcast may recall when I was briefly obsessed with Marvel Snap.
Yes.
And I played Pokemon TCG Pocket, and out of all of them, I think the one that's the most sustainable but also the most expensive is Magic the Gathering Arena, which is really fun to go in and do drafts. But we've got another set coming out this weekend. So there are pre-release events happening right now. It's the Foundations set that's intended to get people back into standard play and I guess things like that. And the draw to spend $100 on this freaking game to get a whole set is almost irresistible. And they keep updating it like every 2 to 3 months. It's actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, the pace of Magic the Gathering has been coming up a lot lately because they're doing so many sets, and now like there's so many new ones coming out that are all part of the like standard stuff. I'm following this from the outside because I just like Magic the Gathering conceptually, but I knew pretty early on that it was going to be something that was like, I think it's a little too much for me. I can't keep up with that the way that I did with other card games, so I'm just going to like stand to the side and wait for the Final Fantasy set to come out, and I'll buy like a bunch of sick packs of that and crack those, and that'll be my engagement with it. But like, I really enjoy playing Magic when I play Magic, and I love the idea of having like a commander deck or something like that, right? Like something that I can just kind of have on me. So like when people are like, "Let's play Commander," I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool! I got a deck." Like in Yu-Gi-Oh, where it's like, "Let's duel," and like the duel discs come out.
You have card decks.
Who doesn't have that fantasy? All right, of like we're gonna settle this, dispute by dueling, and not with guns, with Yu-Gi-Oh cards. But like. I think Magic the Gathering, the amount, like the volume of stuff they're putting out now just immediately made me go like, oh, well, I was the closest I've ever been to tipping into the I'm going to play Magic side of things. And then I saw how many sets are coming out over the next year, and I was like, actually, you know what? I'm good.
I gotta wait.
I have other things that I can spend all of my money on, and I'm not going to like be spending all my money on that. Never say never, but like, I had that moment where I was just like, that's too much. Like, I'll see you when you do Final Fantasy. Like, see you then.
I have been playing the card game a little bit, but also been playing Ys 10, which is, well, of course, it starts out on a boat, and there's a boat thing.
What happens to the boat?
In this case, it's actually very interesting. You're doing your boat things. Adolf's there with his gay husband, Dogi, or going to wherever, and suddenly the boat is boarded by what looks like Norse pirates, and the captain is brought to the fore and executed because he has not paid his toll to cross the waters that are owned by these Viking assassin pirates. And Adol, being Adol, ends up with the daughter of the king of these weirdos, and they have this weird link between them. It's like a magical handcuff, and of course they can't go very far, and of course they have like some great attacks they use together because this is Ys, so the action is top notch as always. I haven't gotten too far into battles, so I can't say if I like it more than 9. 9 is my favorite battle system just because it was complete chaos. So, but there is like the grapple here as well, so it'll probably devolve into chaos soon enough. But what's really funny is Adol is kind of known to be a character who doesn't really have a girlfriend, even though he has like a billion chicks macking on him.
He's a Tenchi Muyo. Yeah.
Yes, not even Tenchi Muyo. I think he's aware, but he's just like very passive about it. But in this case, he's bound literally to this chick, and they can feel each other's emotions through this link. And I'm like, this is going to be a hard one, isn't it? Because everyone has their favorite Ys girl. And, yeah, so far, so good.
Like a James Bond thing?
It's extremely James Bond, except Adolf's not an asshole.
Adolf falls in love, but then...
James Bond, but it's always like anime waifus instead of like real-life models and stuff. That would actually... I'm going to pitch that to Shonen
traveling
Jump.
the world. Will Adol ever be allowed to age and or rest and not have to travel anymore? Give the man a
He doesn't
break.
want to. That's the thing. Adol is like the adventurer's adventurer. His whole thing is, I just go where I want with my gay husband, Dogi. I love Dogi. He is the perfect person to travel with. Oh my god. He's like, oh, we're here, wherever the hell we are. I'm just going to go do some stuff. Let's meet back for dinner. That is the person I love to be on vacation with. I don't care what you like. I'm going to do what I like. I don't care about your stupid boutique stores. You do what you want. We'll meet at dinner and we can talk all about it. Oh, yes, and Ys 10 does take place. Sorry. The games go all over the timeline, but yeah, he is young in this, like 19, still married to Dogi.
I love right now in the Stars of Destiny chat. There's this whole like argument about DS9 going on
having
right
a
now.
big fight about DS9 in the.
Cat's been
Stars of
quiet
Destiny
because
chat.
Cat's been beefing in Discord about DS9.
Nadia just picked up talking about Ys 10 while I was basically like DS9.
Criminal justice in chat say you did this. Oh, it's funny.
Look,
this thing is happening. You did this.
Look, I'm still litigating arguments from the mid to late 1990s. Okay.
DS9. DS9 was always controversial, but I'm not a Star Trek nerd, so I don't understand the full discourse.
Oh, there's this whole thing among nerds where DS9 has become a sacred artifact that is above all criticism. And
I love
that's
it when that happens.
fine.
It's such a
Yeah,
fandom
every
thing.
time there's this certain mood of going, you know what the most underrated Star Trek is? And I'm like, oh God, here we go. I know exactly what you're going to say. You're not going to say Enterprise, which is actually the most underrated Star Trek. You're going to say the one that is the biggest hipster pick of any Star Trek show ever. And they'll go, Star Trek DS9. And I'll be like, I knew it. I knew it. I knew that you would say Star Trek DS9, the show that's not even Star Trek. Okay.
It's not.
Done. I'm done.
I
Okay,
open a box
anyway.
by just saying it's not.
Cat blacked out somewhere in there, just screaming about Star Trek.
Like Strange New Worlds. I find that one pretty good.
Oh my god.
The writing's a little stilted, but that's Star Trek for you. The nice thing I'll say about Star Trek DS9 is that I think it has my favorite cast by far. I like the characters in it, especially Quark.
I have a
and
very good
Ferengi.
friend who
And
works on
Jadzia.
a very good friend who works on Lower Decks. She's on the animation team.
Oh yeah, no
Oh, yeah.
kidding.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've always meant to watch Lower Decks. Actually,
Must
I
be
heard
really
that it's
good.
a real love letter to Star Trek fans. But I should mention that I've been in the middle of my Persona 3 reload. This week in GeckoCon. I've been continuing on through Persona 3 Reload, and it's really weird how big moments in the game seem to match up with big moments in my life and or in the world. So this week has a extremely huge plot moment in Persona 3 Reload, and I've never gotten to this part of it. The big twist has been revealed. A lot has happened, and then everything just kind of goes back to normal, and I'm going back to school, and I'm like, what? What's going on?
I love that. That's a very Japanese thing. The world's ending, but I still got to go to school.
Yeah. I also officially started dating Fuka Yamagishi, and I feel really good about this choice. I did not get into a situation where I tried to date both Yukari and Fuka this time around, though I did have to break Yukari's heart, and I felt really bad about that. Yeah, she did cry. I was like, I'm sorry.
Oh, why do you keep doing this to yourself and them?
That's crazy. So it's like actually like a big rejection scene and all that. It's not like, oh, that's all cool. Because I feel like modern Persona, a lot of it was like just pick who you wanted to romance, and that felt not great. So the idea that Persona 3 involves like some level of rejection and the characters actually having like things that they want and not just wanting whatever the player wants is kind of interesting.
Right.
It's kind of intriguing to me. Maybe I need to go play P3R. Maybe I need to do this.
So, it's a great game. There's a lot that I love about it, especially Koromaru. I love taking Koromaru for a
Aw.
walk. It's like my favorite thing. Oh my god, every single night. You want to talk about coziness? Every time I see the little icon saying that I can take Koromaru up for a walk, I'm so happy.
Just run out that door.
I enjoy exploring the Tartarus. I like the character mix. There's a lot to love about this game. Oh, and it's gorgeous. This is a really beautiful game as well. So, but the thing that's interesting is that I think it's a much more conventional anime style kind of story of failed experiments. And there's a big sort of Evangelion vibe, but not nearly as dark going on there. And I'm enjoying it, but I think a lot about what they did with P4 and P5, where P4 gets... I think there's a much stronger sense of place in P4. The GeckoCon as a city is not really a character in the story in the same way as the town is in P4. And I think P4 does a magnificent job of exploring that culture and that community on a moment-to-moment basis. And I find P4 a lot creepier overall. I think the overarching story is really terrific in P4. I think I prefer that one. But
Yeah.
it's just there's stuff about it that really annoys the heck out of me. And then P5 is very much more focused on the world and Japanese politics, and it takes some really intriguing swings, and just overall it's a much bigger, more ambitious RPG overall than P3, which is comparatively much simpler. But I think there's something to like about all of them ultimately.
Sure.
Yeah, so P3
And
Reload.
metaphor.
Yeah. Big moment, and unfortunately it is keeping me away from metaphor, and it's really fascinating to kind of compare and contrast the two, but I think they're really great in their own way, and I'm really happy they came out the same year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
And Shin Megami 5 Vengeance.
Yeah, Atlas
Oh,
over there
yeah.
just cooking.
Which I
playing
don't
Boy,
think that
the
was
big-
fantastic.
if you like SMT or Persona style games, you're eating this year. Seriously.
Yeah, Atlas is really giving us some good stuff this year. Let us breathe. Let us breathe.
Justice reminding me of that time where I was getting really excited about a character in Unicorn Overlord, and Eric was like, "That's your cousin." I'm like, "No."
The build up to it is so funny. I think it's still in our clips in this channel on Twitch. If y'all want to go watch it, maybe one of the funniest things that has ever happened on a Blood God pod. Like,
I love the time. If you look actually
Thank
on
you,
our
Justice.
clips, someone has clipped the moment where Eric was playing Chrono Trigger, not knowing about the court scene, and
the trial. Yeah.
the trial, yeah, and just your reaction when you're having your sins played back
this
to you, and you're
guy?
like, you're just like, listen, you should have made the lunch interactable if you didn't want it to be stolen. But yeah, good defense. The judge will take that.
It was really funny because they bring that dude out, and I'm like, who is this guy? What's he gonna say about me? And then it like cuts to his sandwich, and I was like, oh, yeah.
When I saw you
ate
take that sandwich when you were playing, I said, yes, that's gonna come back to haunt you, son.
I'm still mad
In
about how
4K.
still mad about how it handles the necklace. I think that's BS.
That was,
personally.
I agree, that's bullshit. But you're being set up, so what do you expect?
Yeah,
A kangaroo
yeah.
court.
Yeah, no, a lot of the clips from both Chrono Trigger and FF6 have been really fun to go back to every now and then.
Yeah.
FF6 will return. It's coming back, I
I
promise.
can't wait for you to finish
took a
that. We
few
have to have a
weeks
big
off.
discussion.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost at the end. I've got to clear like the cultist tower, I think. So I've got to get Phoenix leveled up so I can have Life 3. And then I think after that we might actually really be at the end of the game because I've got the whole party.
Wow.
I've got all my equipment and stuff. We might go to the Coliseum to kind of get some real end game stuff.
You can
But
get some
like
good stuff.
outside of like maybe trying to take down all the dragons, like that's really about it for where we're at. So
Back in the day, people used to do ROM hacks of every game you could think of, and most of them were just garbage. And one of the most garbage ones I remember was just a Final Fantasy VI hack, ROM hack that wasn't even finished. It was just the first part of the game, and it was everyone swearing at you and calling you an idiot for things. So I go to the adventurers classroom in Narsh, and there's a guy there who usually tells you like, this is what life 1 does, this is what life 2 does, this is what life 3 does. So I remember this vividly. I talked to this guy, and he says to me, life 3 is better than life 2, you fucking idiot. And I was I'm like, well, he's got me there.
the
Hey.
number's higher. Yep.
Numbers is you fucking idiot.
If we ever do a Blood God Guide to Life, then that has to be one of the philosophical points. Life 2 or Life 3, it's better than Life 2, you idiot.
You gotta
Ones to live by. Eric, are you playing anything else?
Like a few things I've briefly touched on. Go to bloodgodpod.com and read my blog about Look Back.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
blogging on bloodgodpod.com again.
Yeah, it's mostly the dregs of things that I had been working on for another place that will not be named here, and I needed a home for them after certain things transpired. So go check that out. Look Back is an animated movie adaptation of a one-shot by Chainsaw Man author Tatsuki Fujimoto. It is about 47 minutes long, so it's not like the longest thing to sit down and watch. You will absolutely get emotional. You will possibly cry, and it's all about art and why it like matters to create things. I think it is a really moving story and a really touching story that has profoundly affected me in my life. So I can't recommend it enough. I played the demo for Romancing Saga 2.
Ooh, how is
Ooh.
I liked it, and I don't think I'm gonna play it.
that's
how I'm gonna put it.
Romancing Saga?
I think the
So
systems.
many RPGs right now. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think the systems are really cool. The LP thing is kind of nerve wracking, to be honest. I get that that's part of the appeal, but it did make me like very worried about every time that a single character like went down to 0 and lost an LP. I was like, no, my perfect run. My Fire Emblem brain like kicked in, and I was like,
Yeah.
no. And so that was interesting. I also feel like the story is just not really doing it for me in that game. So like I like the systems, I like a lot of it, but it does really feel like a game that was originally 2D and then made 3D, but you can kind of feel how it wasn't originally thought of as a game for a 3D space, and so a lot of it feels very static and just moving around. It being 3D doesn't really add a lot to it for me, almost to the point that I would almost want to go back and just play it 2D, because it feels like that's kind of the vibe. It's hard to describe, but there's a lot of games that get those remasters where it's like, oh, we're in 3D now, but like these spaces, these ideas, all of this stuff was thought of as like a 2D game, and you can tell when it like pans down, there's not tons of verticality, there's not tons of thinking about that space in that way. So that's a long way of saying that like I think it's a cool game, but I don't know that it's like top of my to play list right now. Maybe I go back to it one day, but I do at least. I'm happy I got to engage with like the Saga mechanics, because I have like those mechanics when they've popped up in other games, stuff like glimmering, new attacks and stuff like that. So I did really enjoy that. The thing I finished this week that I really loved was 1,000 Times Resist. I'm going to sell y'all on it one more time. You play as the Watcher, part of a group of sisters in a neo-futuristic civilization. You kind of like, it's almost like The Giver, where you're like experiencing memories of the old world and trying to understand what is happening there. Meanwhile, you are praising the All-Mother who has given you life, and you are experiencing the All-Mother's recollections of things. But things might not be as they appear. Could there be more nuance and wrinkles to this, the way that The Giver has many different things that maybe you don't think of right away? It definitely has that vibe. It is, I think if you like Nier Automata, you will automatically just be prepped for this game and love it. I think if you like narrative exploration games, or games that do a lot of style switching, format switching, where maybe one level you're playing, again, this is a very Nier thing, but like one level plays as kind of a side scroller, one level plays as kind of a top down thing. Like it plays with the format a lot. And I also think just like the story it tells is maybe one of the more impactful stories I have seen in a while. I played the first chapter, which felt very good, but also very like, okay, I get it. Like this is neat, this is fun, whatever. And then I put it down, and when I came back and finally played chapter 2, like the things that happened and the stuff that chapter 1 was setting up were not immediately apparent. And then once it got going and it started picking up speed, I was like, oh, this is different. This is really different. So if you like the idea of stories about immigrant families and the difficulties they have to overcome in moving to a new country, if you like stories about original sin and the trust that we put in others, the social contract that we put in others, if you like the stories of how power can be abused, but also what power can do for people who need that help, it's just a really powerful story. It's really wonderful. I cannot recommend it enough. It's absolutely going to be on my Game of the Year list. I think this is one of the best indies that has come out this year, bar none. So yeah, absolutely, wholeheartedly recommend 1,000 Times Resist.
We have a lot of RPGs to play, and I just want to throw this out there. Finish the sentence. If you play one RPG this year in 2024, you should play Metaphor Refontagio. If you should play 2 RPGs in 2024, you should also play.
I like that you preemptively knew that Metaphor was going to be my answer to this question.
Metaphor was going to be my choice.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and say Dragon Quest 3 HD because it's such a, when it comes out, because it's such a good depiction of what RPGs were like back then, and of course is a lot less to go through than like Metaphor or something like that. It's a great RPG to come down with if you've had a lot of 80 hours jaunts in your life this year.
Eric?
Oh, I'm thinking. Give me 2 more seconds. Give your answer, and then I'll have an answer.
It's either Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or Unicorn Overlord, but I'm just gonna be
up there too. Yeah.
I think that I'm just gonna go for it and say that ultimately I really loved Unicorn Overlord and it deserves a lot more love this year, and it's a really terrific tactics game. Just make sure that you turn up the difficulty because it's a little simple otherwise, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it from front to back. And if you want a really simple, cozy story, Unicorn Overlord is it. Also, freaking gorgeous. Real Sega Saturn vibes to this one. Really enjoy it. So, but yeah, I mean, obviously, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is the other answer. That's a really good one as well. Even though I have some real problems with its pacing. What do you think, Eric?
I think if I had to pick one non-Metaphor game, and Unicorn Overlord was a good suggestion, one I did not think of immediately, but that would be up there. I think if I'm going to pick a different one, it might, and this is going to sound weird because I had issues with it that I talked about, but it might be Infinite Wealth, just because I really do think that the moments that game does capture are really exceptional. I have issues with some of the end game story, but I think the vibes of just hanging out with Ichiban and Kiryu are so good. I think the world is so fun. I think if you've never played one of those games before, you will probably be able to overlook a lot of the things that I bring up as critiques, and you will just enjoy the wackiness, the zaniness of it all. I almost want to say just pick a different game from a different year, because I do think there are RPGs that I've been personally going back to this year and finally playing or just have been thinking about a lot. Chained Echoes has been on my mind a lot lately. I've been wanting to go back and play Live Alive finally, finish Live Alive. And even just I would say that playing FF6 for the first time this year has been maybe one of the more impactful things that I have done in terms of my understanding of games, and also my ability to talk about games and understand RPGs. And so I would almost say that play the best RPG of the year, which is Metaphor. I'm sorry, it's the best one. It's so incredible. But
spoiler alert.
But
you don't have to listen to our end of the year coverage now. We've already named the best one. No, please do listen to our coverage though.
Yeah. But I do think maybe take that time. You know, if you have that game on your backlog, that classic that you've always heard people talk about and rave about that you've never gone back to play, go play it. Legitimately, this sounds very blasé, very bad advice Facebook meme stuff. Yeah, get your classic device of choice, and I think you would be surprised how many of the games, especially the ones that we have on our top 20 all time and stuff like that, really do hold up and can really open your eyes to new stuff and can be really rejuvenating, especially if you're kind of overwhelmed by how many new games there are. That's one of the great things about Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI is that they're breezy. They're actually pretty breezy games. The SNES era has some Titan games in it that you are going to finish in 20 hours. And compare that to the 80 or 90 hours that like a P3 reload or a very completionist playthrough of Veilguard or something like that is going to take you. Like, if you want something nice and breezy, you just pick up that old retro game that you've always heard about that you've never really tried.
Work on your backlog, people.
Work on your backlog. That's what I'm
Work
talking
it
about.
out.
Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. Let's start a new podcast now. Clap.
My holidays are always about clearing out my backlog. I have too many games that I want to get to right now, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, but Cyberpunk 2077's been on my list for quite a while. I started this year by finishing Final Fantasy V, which,
Oh, that's
if
right,
you want to
yeah.
talk
Oh, yeah.
about cozy, comfy RPGs, I think the first act is a little weak, but when you get into Act 2, that game becomes straight fire, and Act 3 is amazing. And I felt kind of emotional by the end. It is a very optimistic, soaring, joyful RPG. I love all of the characters. The ending is, really did bring a tear to my eye, and it makes me want to believe that there's hope and good in this world.
Hell
Seriously.
Hell
So yeah, Final Fantasy V. That's why I'm called Dawn Warrior Cat in the Discord this entire year. It's because I finished Final Fantasy V in like January. It's actually really fast too if you play it the Pixel remaster, because you can it really helps the grinding that you can do the fast forward. It takes away some friction. I appreciate that. But that's it for the tavern. Nadia, take us home.
I was going to talk about something else today, but Kat, just your discussion about Star Trek and getting all angry about it.
No.
It reminded me of, and I know I've told the story before. It was probably years and years ago. One of the first Blood Gods we did together. So I'm going to tell it again because I think we have a lot more viewers now. And it's a funny story. One of the first times I can remember going online and communicating with a online chat of any kind was CompuServe, which I'm sure Eric at least know the name of, and Kat you probably used back in the day. So the first time I ever saw that, this was like it would have been like 91 or 92. I went to a friend's house and her dad worked for the government, so he had like really cool stuff. And she showed me like this chat room and how you could go like to any like chat on the computer. And of course, this is miraculous new technology that's fascinating. So what's the first thing we do? We find a Star Trek channel and we go into the Star Trek chat channel and we say hello, and they're all like, hello. Said Star Trek is for nerds. And the place erupted.
Somebody immediately left. It's like, Nadia, how dare you?
I've had enough of this Star Trek slander. I have to admit, I was a troll. The first thing I did when I found an online community was start a war, because, I mean, to be honest, back then, the only people on the internet were adults, like, who liked Star Trek. So they kind of took me in good stride. They're like, that's not very funny. And so I have to hand it to them. They did kind of get a little bit angry, but they didn't. It faded out very quickly because people back then weren't quite as ready to set themselves on fire and start an argument. But I can't remember if that was my first interaction or if it was on my brother's Commodore 64 BBS, where I used the name Elvira, even though I was like 10, 12 years old. His heart's as big as my boobs. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about the time I antagonized Star Trek fans. Kat.
Well done, Nadia. I have to say, I'm very proud of you. I was amongst the nerds. I was the nerd getting mad about things.
I was probably talking to you.
Yeah, circa 13. That was circa when I was 13 or 14. I spent a lot of time on the Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5, reading about every single hint and clue about what was going to happen in the Ark. I spent a lot of time on IRC talking about Star Wars. I joined a gaming club called the Emperor's Hammer when I was 13.
Is that a Warhammer?
No, the Emperor's Hammer was you role play as a TIE fighter pilot in a Star Wars club until you're assigned to a Star Destroyer fighting in the Imperial Remnant. And people would make custom missions and you would get high scores. And you would write fan fiction about your character and their life on this Star Destroyer. And people would role play on IRC chats and everything. It was pretty dope in the late 90s.
Yeah.
We have a Discord. We can do this.
Yeah?
This is something we can do.
Really?
Like literally, physically, we have the capability. We can build it. I'm just saying.
Erotic roleplay channel when?
No, hold on. Nadia, stop grabbing the wheel and steering towards the pins.
Too late.
Oh god, my TIE Fighter RP got too erotic.
I mean,
There are people out there who
there
turn
had
on
to
my
have
TIE
been
fighters.
erotic roleplay happening in those chats somewhere.
Yes.
Like
People were definitely in whisper chats being like, in the flight, start to unzip your flight suit.
You're
We've been
telling
sweaty
me
from being in that TIE cockpit for so long.
I refuse to believe that somebody wasn't like writing like really in-depth like dogfighter rival pilots, like an X-wing and TIE fighter pilot who keep trying to shoot each other down but also just want to bang. Like that's
I wouldn't be
absolutely
surprised
out there.
if someone just did a fanfic where a TIE fighter had sex with an X-wing. The machines themselves.
Just the
like,
machines themselves.
Oh, I
yeah.
have a middleman. And on
Wow.
that note,
It's a TIE fighter,
note
a
to
bottom
end
or a top.
Oh, wow. Questions for the post show, I think. But speaking of which, that's it for this week's episode of Acts of the Blood God. I hope you brought some laughter and some comfort in this sort of weird time. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and we'll all get through this together. In the meantime, if you enjoy the show, go and please leave what can I say? Subscribe to us on our Patreon. That's the word that I was looking for.
There you are.
Patreon.com.
Don't think about TIE fighters. Don't think about TIE fighters.
Pod. No, I can't stop. Ah.
TIE fighters.
Brain broken.
Stupid sexy TIE
area.
fighters.
We just released a Pantheon of the Blood God, Shadowheart's Covenant. That's a lot of fun. We're talking about Drakengard at the moment. There's a very large backlog of Pantheon of the Blood God episodes. If you need just a lot of podcasts to kind of get through things and kind of zone out to, so go enjoy it. We're considering a lot of different things over the next couple months as we kind of get toward the end of the year coverage. We are talking about doing a charity stream on Election Day, or Inauguration Day, I should say, January 20th, to raise some money for a good cause and to maybe offer a little bit of counter programming for people who want to, I don't know, watch us play Mario Party or something. We can have a good time with that. So please, stay tuned for more details about that. We're heading now into the Acts of the Blood God post show with our Stars of Destiny, and this week we're joined by Anthrax Bees, Criminal Justice, Drew RWX, Flashback 2012, Harvest Lunatic, JB, Laguna Matata 124, Lord Bob Bree, Mango Alts, Robo Riley, Sardin, and Teeps. We have a good crowd in here today, and thanks to everybody who left a message in the mailbag sharing their favorite cozy RPGs. We'll be heading into the post show now, and we'll be back next week, as always, on Saturday around 9:15 a.m. Pacific to record the next episode of Blood God, Acts of the Blood God on twitch.tv/BloodGodPod. I've been your host, Kat Bailey. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week. And for Nadia, Eric, and myself, happy adventuring.